My name is Thomas Storm. I will be giving a presentation to you guys on diversity in groups. Now, first you need to understand what diversity is. And basically, it's everything that separates you from another individual, and that is your gender, if you're a boy or girl, your age, if you're 10 or if you're 30, your class, middle class, upper class, lower class. It can even be your ethnicity too, whether you define yourself as Hispanic, Jewish, white, black. It can also be the skills you have, the skills you possess. If you were a carpenter, that's how you identify yourself from the different sorts of blue-collar work. Or if you're a CEO of a very successful company. And physical attributes too, that can be a very important one. And it's not just your height, weight, skin color, hair color, all that. It can be how you present yourself. And now typically your white-collar class worker will wear a suit, and you can tell that by what he's wearing. Usually you see a guy in a suit and you think, oh, he's got time to have a suit, or he has enough money to buy a suit. Or if you look at a homeless person, he's wearing very torn, raggedy clothes, and it's usually unwashed. And values too is another one of those important things, because not everything that you look at in diversity is surface level. When you look at religions, different religions like Judaism, Christianity, Muslim, Islam, all those have different values and beliefs. Like Christians will usually celebrate Christmas and Easter, where Muslims will not. And culture too, that's another one as well. We have our own cultures in America, like things we do, like the 4th of July. Now, not every country has 4th of July, so they won't weigh on 4th of July as much as, their own Independence Day. And that brings me to the issues with diversity. So the biggest ones, discrimination. There's a huge problem with that back in the 60s, even still some today. We had different drinking fountains for white people and black people. And prejudice also comes with discrimination, but usually prejudice comes first. It's when we have an attitude or a belief of another group of people, it's usually negative as well. Ethnocentrism, that is the belief that your culture or your diverse set of groups, like white people, let's say, a lot of say white supremacists, that's a good example of ethnocentrism. They believe themselves to be superior to other people like Asians, blacks, Hispanics. And stereotyping too. I have an example up there of stereotyping. That is a World War II propaganda, and that is how we got people to view Japan as the enemy at that time. And so if you can see, it's a very intimidating drawing of a Japanese person. Now, of course, that's not what they look like. This is just an artistic depiction to get us Americans to hate our enemy, per se. And what this led to is that every single Japanese person on the East Coast was put into these camps during World War II, following the attacks of Pearl Harbor. And this propaganda, of course, did not help. I really just understood this more clearly when I read an article by Anna Miles from the University of Missouri, talking exactly about the anti-Japanese propaganda we saw in World War II. And so there are a couple books that I've read that talk about these issues with diversity. It's more of the themes, because these are both classic pieces of literature, To Kill a Mockingbird and Huckleberry Finn. And now what you see in To Kill a Mockingbird, there's one part of the book I want to just talk about briefly, and it is when one of the main characters, Atticus Finch, is defending a black man of a false rape accusation. Now, of course, he, no spoiler for you all, but they found him guilty when he wasn't. The basic context is that he only had one arm and he was very old, and there's no possible way that he could have raped this young, healthy white woman. And so back in those times, clearly they would have just found him guilty no matter what kind of evidence that was put in his defense. And Huckleberry Finn, that really just talks about slavery. And the premise of the book is that Huckleberry Finn is traveling down the Missouri River trying to get his black friend to safety up in the north where black people can, they don't have to be slaves, they don't have to live in slavery. And I also want to talk about when you look at success, right? Success isn't just held in one group of people. We see here Ryan Gosling. He's a very famous movie actor. He's in Blade Runner 2049 and Drive. And just by looking at these three, right, you can definitely see some differences in their physiology, race. Ryan Gosling is obviously a white man. Barack Obama is a black man, and he was the president of the United States. And it's a completely different skill set from what Ryan Gosling did to be famous. He runs the country. And Maria Takeuchi, she's a young Japanese singer who wrote pop music for Japan and became very successful off of that. And I really want to talk about why diversity is important with smaller groups or even larger groups. Say you build a skyscraper, and it's not necessarily just based off of race and ethnicity. It's usually takes place with the type of experience and skill the workers have in going into building the skyscraper. And when you look at how a skyscraper is built, there's so many things that need to go into it, and so many different skill sets need to be utilized from different people in order to build it. So an example, zoning, where's the skyscraper going to be built? Who's going to plan it? Who's going to fund it? And you look at all those firms that are in charge of taking care of those things, and they have all sorts of different people helping them, like the secretaries of this CEO who wants to build this building, or the construction workers. And you can even look at the construction too and think of all the different things that need to go into it. You look at the different skill sets needed to lay down foundation, or weld, or put in plumbing, electricity, and once everything's said and done, who's going to design it, who's going to furnish the building, what kind of art is going to be put in here, what's going to make the room look bigger or smaller, how's the room going to be divided, is this going to be a multi-story business complex with multiple businesses running on each floor, is it going to be a huge hotel? And so a lot of planning needs to go into these things, and lots of different skills and experience need to be used to make this building happen. And now, you don't necessarily need a huge group of people for every project, because every project differs in size. And so when we focus on small groups, right, and you're working on a project, it's good to have different points of view. And the way we get that is by not necessarily having a homogenous group of like-minded individuals, because you may easily get along well with them for having the same beliefs, but you won't get the different points of view from other people. And this doesn't necessarily mean that every single small group has to have someone of a different race or color or religion. The diversity of experiences and skills, even down to gender, mindset, the background of this person, rich person, poor person, they all have different points of view of how this project should be done. Where the whole group is going to meet up, what the project is going to be about, how are they going to do the project. All sorts of different points of views are used to contribute to this idea to realize this goal of the group. And I also want to talk about why diverse groups often perform better. And you see here, I'll pull up a graph for you in just a minute. This company, McKinsey, pulled a report on 366 public companies, and they analyzed their diversity profile, and then also analyzed how much money they made and compared to like the baseline median average. And what they found is really interesting, because they found that with more diversity, more heterogeneous groups of people, a higher profile percentage of different ethnic groups, more women involved in these firms, they found out that their financial return per year was higher if they had a more diverse set of people working on the staff. And this graph shows it right here. So we see that when you look at just ethnicity and even gender and all of them combined, you can see that they have performed better than the median baseline. And the lighter blue line up there really highlights the companies that have a higher percentage of diversity. And when they calculated the means for the 366 countries, they noticed that the homogenous, or say more homogenous groups and companies didn't perform nearly as well. I'd like to thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you learned something. That is all.